Hi, this is Lee Thurburn, and in this video we're going to provide a quick tutorial on how to set up and use database classifications. Okay, so we provide three separate classifications for you to use, Class A, B, and C. And it might help for you to think in terms of these as being three-dimensional objects. So you could think of Class A as being one dimension, Class B as being a separate dimension, and Class C as being a third dimension. And if you put them into a three-dimensional grid, it might be helpful. So let's walk through this kind of one thought at a time. As a business owner, you may think, like I do, of almost everybody is falling into one of two separate classes. People who are customers and people who are not yet or not currently customers. Those would be maybe prospects. So if you want to use Class A to track customers versus prospects, you can think of that as setting up Class A as a column or two columns. Customers and prospects go into the columns. Now, if you want to track people based upon the type of business that they are, business or the type of customer or prospect that they are, business versus individuals, then you might want to set up the rows in a table as the way of tracking businesses versus individuals. And so by adding this second dimension, you now have customers and prospects in columns and businesses and individuals in rows. And then finally, let's presume for just a moment that you keep track of people based upon how you met them. And this is so that you can track your marketing efforts. And let's, for simplicity's sake, say that you have two ways that you find new customers. One is through referrals, and the other is through networking groups. You go to networking groups on a regular basis. So if we add this third dimension, you might have referrals and networking groups. So you would put those visually or conceptually inside the grids so that everybody's defined as either a customer, business customer, found through referral, business customer found through networking groups. Or maybe they're a prospect, an individual who's a prospect that you found through a referral, or an individual that's a prospect that you met through a networking group. So again, if you think of Class A and the various selections as being columns, and Class B and the various selections as being rows, and then Class C as having selections within those grids, this might help you as we move on to the actual system and show you how to input this information. But there's three important things I want you to remember. You can have an unlimited number of selections within each class, and you can only select one selection within a class at a time when you're in a CRM record. And finally, you can only select one selection item at a time when you are searching the records. So selections within a class are single select. You cannot select multiple options within a class. Okay, now let's go ahead and move on to the system and show this in operation. Okay, so now we've entered the system and we're going to go ahead and move to the CRM database. And the first red button on the top row says Edit Database Classifications. And we click here and you'll see that there's three columns, Class A, Class B, and Class C. At the moment, they do not have any kind of name. Well, it's important that you name your classes because this is a requirement prior to being able to import spreadsheets and import data. So I recommend that until you have a better, or unless you have a different thought process in mind, that you call Class A category, so name it category, save it, that you call Class B type, so we'll name it type and save it, and then that you name Class C source, and that you name it as source and save it. So now we have given a name to each Class A, B, and C. That's the first row. The second row is to add selection options for Class A, B, and C. So for Class A, we might type client as a selection option, and then we might type prospect as a selection option. So now we've added client and prospect to Class A. Now we can go ahead and add business and individual to Class B, and we can add referral and networking group to our options for Class C. Now that we've added those, we can go back to Home, and then we can go ahead and go to CRM database, and let's add a record. So we'll add a test record, and we'll just call it Lee, and we're going to give Lee a classification as a client, a type as a business, and a source as a referral. So this is where this top row of drop downs is where your classifications are able for you to select. So I'm going to go ahead and add that client, add member record for Lee. Now we're going to just click on add new member record, and we're going to add a record for Bob, and we're going to make Bob a prospect, a business, and a networking group. And we're going to add member. Now we're going to go up to Home. Actually, let's do this first. Let's go to Search, and we'll see that we have Bob and Lee listed. Bob's on the top because he's the most recent. Bob is a prospect, a business, and a networking group. Lee is a client, a business, and a referral. Now, if we, in the search results, there's a top line here, a accordion area that has been reduced. We can open it, and now we can select all of our clients and do a search on all of our clients, and we find that we have one client whose name is Lee. Or we could search on all of our prospects and do the search, and we have one prospect, which is Bob. If we wanted to find all of our businesses, we could go do a search and just look for businesses, and then we'll find just both businesses.